Greetings. I'm Alec Pierson, the Executive Officer and Financial Officer for the Diocese of Ontario. I'm here to provide you with an update on where we are with our Pre-Authorized Giving program. This should be a short but hopefully insightful video for you in terms of what we have been through, where we are going, and what's coming next. So PAGs are Pre-Authorized Giving. It's a program that's been in place in the diocese for over 15 years that lets parishioners, lets donors contribute on a monthly basis through whatever form they choose for direct withdrawal or credit card, that they're able to plan their givings and they're able to therefore ensure that their church and its ministry and ongoing work is being supported on a month-to-month basis. And of course, for the church, it provides a predictable and something they can plan on in terms of their income. So it's very convenient for people. It encourages people to think about on an annual basis what they wish to give to their church and how they wish to give it. And it encourages that focus on stewardship, which is a very important piece. It also helps out level out for the churches because we all know that Christmas and Easter are big cash flow times. Summer times, not so much, but yet the bills are still there. So this helps level out the cash flow and the ability for the church to meet its needs and continue to do its ministry. So this program has been running in the diocese for over 15 years. We've actually had a fair bit of success with this program, but earlier this year we started to see some issues arise that have led to the changes we're making now. So those changes and those issues have really flowed from the high number of people that have been signing on to this process and system, high number of donors, high number of transactions. We've seen a lot of changes. People make changes month to month in what they're giving, and that creates additional challenge. We've seen the tools that we used, which were put in place almost 20 years ago, the timing, the age, and the variability. The complexity of those tools made it so that they too caused issues. And then finally, we've heard that there's difficulty with reporting. So in all, we felt there was problems with the transactions, problems in servicing the donors, and ensuring that both the donors and the churches are able to get what they need. So we set out to understand and then make change. So the agreed action plan after consultation was that churches, of course, are free to take on their own PAG locally. When this started out, there was not a lot of options for folks. But now you can go to a number of banks and other providers and do something on your own. That is an option. It's one that our staff will help you if you, as a church, decide you want to leave this program. But that is an option for you. The second step we took was to leave the bank that we were with and move to BMO, previously known as Bank of Montreal, to their platform, which is a web-based platform for debit and credit card withdrawals. The third piece was recognizing that we didn't really have a parish focal point for the PAG system. We found that people were interacting with the diocese directly, and often the church didn't know what was going on, or the church wasn't aware, able to work with it. And of course, this is money that people are giving to their church, not to the diocese. So we determined that we needed to create a stronger church parish level coordination around the sign-up process, around changes, around cancellations. And then finally, we needed to make sure that the process was clear, the timing was clear, that it was documented, and that the inputs were clear, so that as people changed and as time went on, there was clarity and consistency in what we're doing. So for that clarity, we've really broken down into two areas. What the church is responsible for. And obviously the church is responsible for the mission and the ministry that people are contributing to. They're responsible for ensuring that the information and the authorization required from an individual is in place. They're responsible for managing changes that individual might want to make, whether they're one-time changes, whether they're increases, decreases, redirections, cancellations. They're responsible at the church level for receiving the money once a month after the withdrawals are done, and the summary reports that come with it. The church is still responsible for issuing tax receipts. So the information flows back and is receipted the same as envelopes would be. And then finally, they're responsible for expressing gratitude and thanks to the donors and keeping the donors up to speed in terms of how their work and how their donations are contributing to the mission of that church. From the diocesan office side, we're responsible for the relationship and process with BMO, the service provider. We're responsible to receive the new change and cancel request reports, which will come once a month from the church. Responsible to make sure that the data that goes into the BMO system is accurate. We're responsible to ensure that the withdrawals and charges are made and to work with the bank when there's challenges. Responsible to issue reports to the church and to, of course, transfer the funds net of the fees. And then finally, responsible for dealing with issues and ongoing process. And that process includes the forms and templates that the church will need to make this work. So I mentioned about this new role of a PAG Coordinator within each church or each parish. So the role of that church, of that person, is fairly simple. To keep the church, rather than the diocese, at the center of the giving that's for that mission in that place. Responsible to be a focal point for the process in the church. And that person receives the requests from donors, new, change, or cancel. They provide updates monthly by summarizing those into the diocesan office. They receive the monthly report back from the diocese. They identify any issues and concerns that might exist. And they work with the wardens, treasurer, the envelope secretary, stewardship committee, whatever else exists at the church, to ensure that information is available and answering any questions that people may have regarding the program. And I draw the analogy to an envelope secretary, which has been a traditional role in the churches for a very long time. This person is responsible for a more modern way of giving, in addition to what the envelope secretary does. In order to support this, we are producing some new materials and some new resources. So we will create a new brochure, which will have a new authorization form. And we'll produce two versions of it. One will be a diocesan generic version that you can simply use as is. But the second will be more of a template that your church can customize to make the graphics and the messaging more custom for your church. But you can use either one. We'll create the monthly PAG input form, which will then be used by the coordinator to flow back to this office. Create a card, the card which will be used by donors because people still want to put something on the collection plate. And so we have created cards that have been used in the past, and those will be updated. There'll be a role description that details the responsibilities for the church PAG coordinator. And then finally, we'll produce a one-page overview of what the process works end to end. Those will all be available on the diocesan website on September the 13th. Yes, that is a Friday the 13th. One other question we get asked is about fees. So BMO charges fees for their transactions, of course. A number of years ago, the fees for debit withdrawals were 45 cents. They're now down to 11 cents per transaction. Currently, Visa is at 2.23, MasterCard at 2.295. Those fees do fluctuate a little bit over time as the banks and the credit card companies change them. And of course, those fees are netted from what the parish receives. The diocese does not apply any fees to this work. So as I mentioned, we began this journey earlier this year in response to some challenges and concerns. In April, we completed a review and we did a consultation session that was done online, well attended. In May, we did planning that was based upon what we heard from that consultation session. In June, we began the implementation work with the change over to the Bank of Montreal. In July, we did change over from our old provider to the Bank of Montreal. In September, we'll be doing the work that has been discussed here to identify in each church the PAG coordinators, to provide the new forms, to provide the process and the training that needs to go on there. And then in October, we will cut over to this new process. And we recognize that October will be a transition month as we work our way through. But by November, the expectation is that the changes will all flow through the PAG coordinator within the parish. So in summary, we've come a long way since the beginning of this process. The issues that we saw, we have now dealt with many of them by changing our provider, by designing and documenting process. And the next step will be putting in the PAG coordinator so that the parish is the focus of the donation process through PAG, as well as for the diocese implementing at the back end. That really will give us a 21st century solution for the 21st century church. As always, we will be here both through our website, through email, through phone calls or visits to support with questions and being able to do any training and any other work that's required for this to really work and come to life in our churches. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, either via email, apierson@ontario.anglican.ca, by phone at 613-544-4718, or by dropping into the Diocesan Center. Thank you, and I look forward to the next steps.